Hello all, welcome to Clark Technologies, and we are very happy to announce that we are going to provide a free course for MuleSoft for all the freshers and beginners and who want to learn MuleSoft from scratch. This is entirely free course which we are going to release on day by day basis. So it will be a 30 days course, so it is very helpful for you to learn MuleSoft from scratch. And we have explained this course with the real-time project. We have built a real-time project also. In order to explain that, we have created a couple of files and project code as well. So if you want to get those files and projects, please email us with this subject line, request to share level 1 course file. Also, we have an important announcement that we are planning to release a MuleSoft advanced level 2 course very soon. So in this course, we will be discussing most of the topics of MuleSoft, which will help you very well in order to complete level 2 certification as well as to work on complex real-time projects as well. So I hope you will be enjoying that course as well. So if you want to know more details about advanced level course, please contact us via mobile or email. We will be sharing those details. So without further delay, let's get started. Hi, welcome back. So till now, what we have done, we have created the RAML for this library management system API, and we have redesigned it with all the different reusable fragments, all the possible reusable fragments. We redesigned our RAML and we published that RAML into our exchange. So this is the exchange I'm pointing about, and the version is 1.0.1, because initially without fragments we have published it with the default asset version 100. As I have segregated it into different fragments. If you watched our previous video, this will it is you can understand what is the fragments and how we can redesign it and all. Then I published it into exchange with 101. So till now we have completed the design part of one API, library management system API. Okay, so our next step is as we have designed it, we published it to exchange. Let's assume that our end users or our customers also okay with this design. So they give feedback like, okay, go ahead and do the implementation. Let's assume that we got the go ahead with from them. Okay, now what is our next step? You need to start the implementation as per the API cycle, API life cycle. Right, let me show that. Excuse me. What happened? Don't know where it is. Just give me 1 second. Okay, maybe it is in another diagram. 1 second. And I just wanted to show you the API lifecycle steps which we have discussed. Okay, or else maybe let me do it quickly. So our first step is designing the RAML. So in the design center. Then what is our next step? To create any REST API in MuleSoft, this is the sequence we have to follow. Okay, so our next step is you need to publish it into exchange, and once you got the feedback from the customer, then you need to start the implementation. Okay, so where we are going to do the implementation, it is not done by the Cloud Hub. Like we cannot do any implementation in the Cloud Hub. What we have to do, Cloud Hub is just for design and deploy. Okay, so to develop the application, to do the actual business logic, what tool we are going to use in MuleSoft, it is nothing but Anypoint Studio. So in our initial setup video, we already downloaded the Anypoint Studio and expanded it in somewhere, right? So we have done with these two steps for this particular API, particular library management system API. Now our next step is to start the development by using Anypoint Studio. Now we are here. Once we are done with the implementation, then we can deploy it into the Cloud Hub again. That will be the another step, but it will take some time. We have to first complete the implementation, then we can deploy it into Cloud Hub, where we are going to deploy in Runtime Manager. Okay, so just to follow this flow as of now. So we have done with these two steps. We have done the design center RAML design, and we have published it into Exchange. Now we need to start the implementation in Anypoint Studio. So to do that, before we start the actual implementation of this RAML, this system API, we need to understand couple of basics. If you are new to this MuleSoft, if you don't know how to create a fresh application and how to create a flows under, you can just I'm just recapping it. Okay, if you are already know about creating the projects in Anypoint Studio, then that will be okay. You can maybe this video just a revision for you. But if you are new to this, I am keeping mind in like all the freshers and all the non-IT students also. I kept them also in my mind. So I just wanted to explain that first before you start the actual implementation of SAP. Okay. So how to start this Anypoint Studio? In our setup classes, you have already expanded it somewhere. You have downloaded this Anypoint Studio and extracted it somewhere, right? So in my case, I have extracted here. So you will see one folder here, Anypoint Studio. You can just open it. You will find this button, this icon one. So you need to just double click on it. This is an executable application file. You can just double click on it. It will get open. And once it is open, it will ask you for something, the location like this. Okay, workspace. Because all the unit, you can just accept it. You can just click on launch. Okay, it will actually what it will do, it will create in this workspace, in this folder, all the projects which you are going to work on this Anypoint Studio will be going to save here. Okay, so if you want, maybe you can if you want, you can change this path. Sorry, some messages. If you want, you can change this path. You can just browse, click on browse here. You can change this path also if you want. Otherwise, you can just accept the default one. So you just remember the C users lags and Anypoint Studio workspace in this location. All the projects which I am going to work on, my Anypoint Studio will get saved over there. So I just click on launch. You also just double click on this application and click on launch. Okay, then as I already opened it, it will throw error, but in your case it won't throw. So this is the Anypoint Studio which we are going to talking about, which we are going to use for development. So I'm just to close all the things. So if you first expanded this studio, you first extracted this studio, all these are not, this project will not be visible for you. It will show like empty one, and some options are there, you can just ignore it. Okay, so these are all the projects I worked on, you can just ignore them. Okay, so what we can do, so if you are using this Anypoint Studio for the first time, you can do this. This is the project explorer. Here all our projects will be visible, and once you create any project, you will see Mule palette here. Here all the components, connectors and all the things will be available for us to drag and drop. And this is the console. I'll just create one project and show you how you can use this Anypoint Studio by creating one Hello World application, so that it will be easy for you. If you are new to this Anypoint Studio, then it is easy for you to understand. Okay, so to create a new project, what we need to do here, file, edit, navigate, search, these menu bars are there. Go to file menu, click on new, select new Mule project. Okay, then one window will be open up for you. You need to give a project name here. So as we are going to do this Hello World application, we can maybe give Hello World or demo or sample application. You can give any name here. But to do the actual implementation, to start with the actual implementation, we will give the proper name. Okay. So we are working on this library management S API, right? So in our that project, where while we start that project, we can give that name itself. But now it is just a sample application. Na? You can give any name, and make sure the runtime is the latest one. By default, Anypoint Studio will come up with the latest runtime only. Now Mule server runtime is 4.4.0. This will be one basic interview question for you. So if someone asks you like what is the runtime you are using, you can say it is 4.4.0. This is the latest runtime we are using in our project. Maybe you can say in that way. Okay. So by default, Anypoint Studio will come up with the latest runtime only, and everyone usually use this latest runtime only. But few projects in few organizations, they are using old runtimes based on their license and their stuff. Okay, you can ignore that. So to create a new project, you need to click on File, New Project, give the project name, and click on Finish. As of now, just remember these three things. Okay. So once your project is created, see here one window is opened. Hello World demo with the same project name which we have created. One XML file is getting created under src main Mule. This is the folder structure by default. Okay, we will see one by one. If I explain everything here, you will not understand better. So once you click on project, let's just remember this one. This folder src main Mule. Under this folder you will find all the XML files. This XML files like file name .xml, the project name, with the project name by default it will come. We can rename it as per our requirement. So this XML file is called configuration files. Remember that this is configuration file. Here this is the one canvas. You can see this is called canvas, and this is the Mule palette. Earlier you I mean, without creating any project, you will not see anything here and anything here, right? So once we create new project, you will see one window like this here. This is called canvas, and you will see all the available connectors or components available here. This is called Mule palette. So by using the components or connectors available here in this palette, we are just dragging drop it here. By using all these connectors, these are just a few, 4 or 5 connectors are there, but we have lot of things. See, these are the core connectors, and we have lot of external connectors. We will see one by one. So by default, if you are using this Anypoint Studio as a first time, you will see only few options here. But based on our project requirement, we are going to add all the other modules also. Okay, so these are all the connectors or components or routers and scopes, everything, variables, scopes, everything available here. By using all these things, we are going to implement MuleSoft projects. Okay, so let's see how we can implement a sample project first. Okay, what I'm talking about, what I meant by sample project, or what I meant by this Hello World project is, let me just explain little bit. So now I just wanted to see, in a REST API, we are going to implement different endpoint URLs, different URLs, right? So just like that, without the REST API, I just wanted to implement this URL. I'll just give hi demo. See, I want to implement this one for this Hello World project, and once I click on this URL, I am expecting response like hello Clat, welcome to 45 days Mule mastery course. So we already discussed about what is this URL and all, right? So now I am going to implement this URL in this Hello World project. Okay, so HTTP is the protocol, because in local we cannot test HTTP as a secured one, so we can just test with this HTTP, and localhost is the host, 8089 is the port, and /hi demo is my request path. Okay, so now let's say without this implementation, if I hit this URL using any browser, you will not receive anything. You will not receive any response. It is showing error because this is just a URL. We have not yet implemented it. Now let's implement this URL here in Anypoint Studio. Okay, so to do this, you need to first understand what is the protocol. So this is a HTTP protocol, right? So we have HTTP listener. HTTP protocol components are there. You need to first drag and drop HTTP listener. to implement any HTTP service like this is a new HTTP service, individual HTTP service. It doesn't require any REST API. It doesn't require any RAML. It is just an individual API. That is why we didn't design anything for this. It is just an implementation. Okay. So to use this HTTP protocol, we need to use HTTP listener component, and in that component you need to configure all these things: host, port, path, all this information we need to configure here now. Let's see how we can do that. Okay, once you drag and drop this listener here, you observe one thing within listener is actually drag and dropped into some box here, some box. Okay, in general word I'm just trying to find. This is nothing but flow. Okay, in MuleSoft, any implementation, any business logic you can implement inside a flow. A flow will have three different parts. Let me just remove it. So in MuleSoft, all the business logic, okay, everything you need to implement in the form of flow. In Java, maybe if you are aware of Java, we need to write different classes, different functions like that, right? So in MuleSoft, all the business logic should be there inside the flow. This is mandatory one thing, and each flow will have three different parts: source, process, error handling. Okay, three sections are there in each flow. Source is the one which will trigger the flow, which will start the flow, because once we done the business implementation, to test this particular application, we need to hit this application, we need to call this application through this URL, right? In this case, so how can we call? Once we hit this URL, what will happen in the background? So once we hit this URL in the browser or Postman, anywhere, what will happen? It will call the first component available here in this source. In this source section, you will have only one component, because this source section component will be used to trigger the flow or call the flow. Only one flow is there. Sorry, one component is there, should be there in this source section. And in the process section, we can have as many as components, as many as connectors based on your requirement. And for each and every flow, we have error handling section. So any errors occurs inside the flow in the implementation or while running it or while testing it, the code available here in this error handling section will invoke and it will execute. You need to remember these 3 points as of now. Okay, let's come back. Let's implement this. Okay, to implement this, you need to use listener. Now you need to drag and drop the listener in the source section. Okay, just hold a mouse button here on this one, just drag it here and drop it here. So in source, if you want to drag and drop any other listener, it won't allow. It's already there now, so red mark will be there. So you cannot drag and drop more components in the source section. Only one component it will allow, that is to trigger the flow. And in the process section, you can drag and drop as many as connectors based on your requirement, based on your business logic, right? So to first, let's configure this. You can just double click on this listener. It will open up all the properties for you here. So in MuleSoft, to implement any flow, to implement any business logic, you need to remember, we need to understand first which connector need to be used in our project or how to configure it. You need to understand these 2 steps basically. Which component we are going to use. In our case, it is HTTP components. Okay, we are clear. Then second step is how to configure it. You need to understand these 2 points. Then half of the MuleSoft implementation you can do easily once you understand these 2 things. Okay, so we need to use HTTP listener in this hello world case. You need to configure it. How to configure it? You need to just click here, connector configuration. Okay, here you can mention all the protocol, host and port. We need to implement this one. So protocol is HTTP. So protocol is HTTP by default. If you want, you can change it to HTTPS in your real-time project. But as this is the just test one, you can just keep it HTTP. And host, localhost. Host, here it is showing like 0.0.0.0. It means it will accept all the IP addresses requests. But if you want to specifically change it to localhost, you can change it. Localhost option is also there. But the recommended way is just to keep this default one. because 0.0.0 will accept localhost requests also, but once you deploy it into Cloud Hub, okay, you need to change this again because Cloud Hub will not accept localhost. So you finally, once you're done with the implementation, final goal is to deploy it into Cloud Hub, right? So better you can just keep this all interfaces option here instead of localhost. It will accept localhost as well. And the port, default port 8081 you need to use, but maybe in our testing purpose while deploying it locally we can use this 8089 as per our requirement. But you need to remember, before you deploy this application into Cloud Hub, you need to change these two things. Host should be all interfaces 0.0.0 if in case you have selected local host here. Otherwise you can just leave it as it is. That would be better option. You can just leave it as it is, all interfaces, and port 8089 for our requirement. But before you deploy this application, you need to change this port to the default port. Default port is 8081. Just remember these three things. Okay, you can just change it to 8081 before you deploy it into Cloud Hub. But as of now, just leave it as it is. As for now, we can just use 8089 just to understand. Now click on OK. Now we have configured protocol, host, port. Now what is the other thing we need to configure? This path /hi demo. Okay, see, you will find one option here, the general path. Here you can paste that path. That's it. So you need to understand if there is any errors in the configuration, any mandatory fields are missing before you configure, it will show you errors here. See, if I remove this, it is showing error. Attribute path is required. All the required fields also it will show here, just for your understanding purpose. This is very user friendly interface MuleSoft has. So path is required. So I just give path. If you fill all the required information, it will show you there are no errors. Just observe these things if you are using it first time. Okay, now click somewhere, error also gone, that's fine. Now we have configured this listener completely, this endpoint. But what you are expecting back, you are expecting back, this is the response. This is the response you want to receive. So we need to configure this response also. So to configure any request response, we have a component called transform message. This is called data view also. Another name for this transform message is data view. And if you remember our very first video FAQ questions, there we have discussed like what language we need to learn before you I mean to learn MuleSoft. Is there any programming language you need to learn like that, right? In that I have explained you need to understand data view language, or you need to practice data view language to be expert in MuleSoft. Okay, that is this component. In this component we are going to write all the data view code. Okay, by default, once you drag and drop this data view or transform message in the palette, see, now we drag and drop the transform into process section, not the source section. It will not allow. So in the process section you can add in as many as components. So to get this kind of response, to configure this kind of response, you need to use data transform message component, data view component. So once you drag and drop here, it will show you the properties here. By default it will come up like this. Okay, Java is the output one, application /Java. Whenever you see this, you can understand, right? Output format is in Java format, Java language format. But we are expecting this is a JSON response. You know, right, what is JSON, how JSON will looks like, how XML will looks like. We already covered this information in basics video, right? So if you want, you can just go to that video and recap that. So this is the JSON format. So I need to get this as a response in the JSON format in this particular example. So you need to change this. What is the output format you are expecting? JSON, na? So instead of Java, you can give JSON. You need to do this change first. Then what information you are going to receive? The actual payload. Payload means the actual response or request we already discussed, right? So here I am expecting the payload like this. So you can just copy, paste it here. You can remove this quotations for the key. Defining it, you don't need it.
That's it. So you just changed the output format to JSON because you are expecting JSON format, and you have configured the value. What is the actual value you are expecting? Now let's save this. Okay. So this is how your first flow will looks like. Your first application will looks like. Just practice this well to understand little better. Then we will start the actual implementation of system API. It will be easy for you. Okay. So now we have done with the implementation. We have done with the implementation for this particular requirement. As this is the very simple flow, very simple requirement, just a hello world requirement. We are done with this project implementation as of now. Okay. But your real-time project will not be this much simple. And I need to introduce one more component which is called a logger. So what is the use of logger? If you want to display any messages here before or after executing any particular code just to under tracking purpose, you can use the loggers. So logger component, once you click on this, so what I can mention here, there is no syntax, but just I'm just so differentiate it. I am using hashes, but don't use hashes when you enable the function. I will explain this later. Okay, for now just follow. Okay, so I have added one logger here before data view. I can say like before calling data view, this response you will see here in the console. Okay, this message you will see in the console. This response you will get in the browser. So once we hit this implementation, hit this URL, once we deploy this application, once you hit this, it will show you the response here. But the messages which we are typing, the logger message, it will be showing here in the console. Okay. So this is after calling the data view. Like this, we can just add as many as loggers to understand the flow, where the flow is executing, how the flow is executing, where it goes, the control, where it goes and all. Okay, I have added 2 more loggers also. I'll just save it. So what we have done, first we need to understand the requirement. Even though if it is a simple project, you need to first understand the requirement, like what connectors we are going to use, how to configure it. Then you start the actual flow implementation. So we are done with the implementation. Now we need to deploy this application. To make this application available for testing, you need to deploy this application. So first let's deploy this application into Anypoint Studio itself. You have multiple deployment models. Okay, we have another video for that to understand different deployment strategies and different deployment models. I will post that into this playlist once we are come to that stage. So once you understand first basic deployments, then I will explain you different deployment models. First let's understand. So to make this application available for testing, you need to deploy this application. We will see first 2 types of deployments. One is local deployment, another one is Cloud Hub deployment. For now, just remember these 2 points. We have a lot of deployment models in Cloud Hub, we will see later. So local deployment, Cloud Hub deployment. CH means Cloud Hub. Okay. So local deployment means you are deploying your application into this Anypoint Studio itself. So if you deploy this application in this Anypoint Studio, only you can test this application. You means the system, in which system you have implemented this, only using that particular laptop you can test this application. If you deploy this code into your Anypoint Studio, this code is available in your Anypoint in your laptop only, right? So you can test it in your laptop only if you deploy this application into Anypoint Studio. If you deploy this application into Cloud Hub, okay, Cloud Hub is the cloud accessible one. Anyone can access this Cloud Hub, right? So if you deploy this application into Cloud Hub, then anyone can test this application. Remember these 2 things as of now. If you deploy this application into Anypoint Studio, only you can test it by using your own laptop. If you deploy this application into Cloud Hub, anyone from any laptop can test it by using Cloud Hub URL. Okay, let's see that difference. So first thing, let's deploy this let's do this local deployment. It means let's deploy this application into this Anypoint Studio. So to do that, right click on this application, go to run as, click on Mule application. Now this application is going to deploy in your Anypoint Studio. Anypoint Studio by default it has an internal server. Jetty server is there. Internally it is having one server, so you can do just, let's not move depth on this as of now. Just understand how to deploy this in Anypoint Studio, because before you deploy this, your ultimate goal is, our final goal is to deploy any application or any code, any project into Cloud Hub. That is your end goal. At the end of any project, at the end of any implementation, you need to deploy your code into Cloud Hub. That is your end goal. Okay. To do that, we have different methods. To do that, we have different strategies. That is another point. So before you deploy this application into Cloud Hub, first you need to see how it is working, right? How your application is working and how you have done the implementation. If everything is working fine or not, you need to just cross check it once. That is called local testing. Before you deliver this project or before you deploy this into Cloud Hub to make this is available for everyone, you need to test it for yourself first, right? See, for example, yeah, how can I say this local testing in general words? If you prepare some curry, again I'm coming to curry example. So if you prepare some curry or something, you can test it, right? You can taste it first before you serve this to people, your family. You can taste it, right? That is called local testing. And once you serve to your family, they will give you the actual feedback. Okay, so why I am always referring to this careers example, sorry, restaurant examples, because I am doing work here. Right. Okay. Jokes apart, so local testing is like, before you deliver this project to actual Cloud Hub deployment, actual users, you can just test it. Just for safe side, you need to test it. That is the main practice. You need to test your application before you deploy it into Cloud Hub. I see some error is there. What is that? Address already in bind. What is this? Okay. So if you see some error like address already in bind, something like that, you can just change the port to normal default port. Sometimes it won't accept another port. Okay. Maybe you can just use the actual port, or you can just give any other port. 9876. I think I didn't use, because any existing application, if it is using the same port, it will throw that error. Now I have changed it. Let me stop this. See here, if the red button is there now, you can just click on that, it will stop the deployment. Now I have changed it now, so I need to save it and redeploy again. 9876, right? So now our endpoint URL will be 9876 instead of 8089. Okay, now yeah, let's deploy again. So how can you deploy? Right click on your project, go to run as, and click on new application. Let's see, this time that error will gone. Otherwise I have to close all the other applications and I'll just do it as a fresh copy. Let's see. So that is the thing. Your end goal is to deploy this into Cloud Hub, but before you deliver this, you need to test it locally once. So this is a mandatory step or a best practices step for you as a developer. You need to make sure everything is working fine before you deliver. Okay, so let's wait. Now it is deployed. So whenever you don't have any errors, if your application is deployed successfully, you need to see this message deployed and your project name, hello world demo deployed. If you see these two things, you can assume like your application is deployed successfully. Earlier I have get error like failed, right? If you remember, because the port which is already there in for another projects. Okay, you need to just make sure you have to give unique port. So this is to clear the console. clear all these messages. Just I'll just click it to show you the actual test details. So just cleared it. Don't click here. It will, if you click here, your application is again terminate, and it won't allow for testing. So now let's hit this URL. Let's test this because we changed the port now, so we can just take that latest URL and go to any browser, hit enter. See, now I got the response. Earlier it is showing some error. Now I got the response result, the expecting response. Now you can just go to your Anypoint Studio. You will see the messages here which we have configured, the log messages. So before calling data view, this log message is displayed here before calling data view. And in this log message we have we return like after calling data view. So the log messages will be available here in the console to test everything is working fine or to tracking purpose. So actual payload, you can actually request a response payload. You can configure it by using data viewer transform message. So this is the actual response which we have written here. So now we have done with the implementation for this sample project, and we have deployed it locally by using local deployment, and we have tested it. It is working fine. Okay, we tested it and we got the response. So it means it is successful. Like you have successfully implemented this code, deployed the code, and tested the application. This is for local deployment. Now our ultimate goal is to deploy this into Cloud Hub, right? So let's see how we can deploy this into Cloud Hub, so that you will understand one round of implementation and testing. Then we can start the actual implementation. That will be easy for you, right? So we deployed it locally and tested it. Then let's see how to deploy this into Cloud Hub. We have actually two different methods to deploy it into Cloud Hub. Let's follow one method now. Let's see another method while deploying it in the actual project. So to deploy this into Cloud Hub, you need to right click on this application. To deploy it locally, what you have done, run as Mule application, right? To deploy it into Cloud Hub, you need to select this Anypoint platform and deploy it to Cloud Hub. Okay, you need to click that option. And once you click that option, what will happen? It will ask you for your Cloud Hub credentials. Because see, this window will open. This is the same window here, Anypoint Cloud Hub, right? Because you just say like right click on this application, deploy to Cloud Hub. So which account it should deploy? You need to provide that information, right? So I have created one test account, you have created one test account, someone has created some test account. So where this application need to be deployed, in which Cloud Hub account, that you need to mention here. So now whenever you see this window, you need to log in with your Anypoint platform credentials. That is nothing but your Cloud Hub credentials. So my username is this one. Once you log in here, it will start the deployment. Now it will understand in which account or in which Cloud Hub account it need to be deployed, because thousands or millions of members have Cloud Hub accounts. In which account it should deploy this application, we need to say this by logging in here. Okay, I think this is the password. We just try. Yeah, now the credentials are valid. Now it will show you deployment window for you. Once you log in with your credentials, it will show this here. And we have multiple environments here. Okay, we have not discussed anything about environments as of now. If you are aware of this, that is fine. If you are new to this, just ignore as of now. We will discuss this environments and all later in detail. Or we have already another video in our channel where we already explained this environments. If you want to learn it quickly, you can just go through that video as well, or else I will definitely explain everything whenever the time comes. Okay, so as of now, just leave this as it is. Remember, you are going to deploy this into dev environment. What is environment, how many environments are there, you will see later. If you don't know at this moment, just leave it. Okay, now yeah, my battery is running. Okay, so this is the deployment window. It will show you for you. It will show for you. Okay, now what you can do here, Just expand it. By default it is coming up with Cloud Hub 2.0, but we will see Cloud Hub 1.0 deployments only in this course, because everyone is using Cloud Hub 1.0 option for most of the projects. Cloud Hub 2.0 is the new one released recently. Recently, all the projects are moving here from Cloud Hub 1 to Cloud Hub 2.0. Maybe in your new organization, once you join, they might have used Cloud Hub 2.0. They might be used. Okay. But as of now, let's do it in Cloud Hub 1.0. We will discuss this 2.0 and how to deploy this in 2.0, what are the differences and all in next upcoming sessions. So click on this drop box, select this Cloud Hub. Instead of 2.0, select the old one, Cloud Hub 1. This is the 1.1, 1.0 version. And whenever you select that, you need to give unique name to your application. So add something. I just added Clat. Okay, add something to make sure to follow all this one. Just click on deploy application. We will discuss about these workers, vCores, runtime versions, all these things later. Just ignore as of now. Just to see you don't have any errors here. All the ticks, green ticks should be there. You need to add some name, append some name to make this application unique name. And you need to select, default it will be coming up with 2.0. You need to select Cloud Hub, give the unique name, click on deploy application. That's it. Follow these steps as of now. Okay. We will discuss one by one later. So it will take some time to deploy this application. Maybe you can minimize it and see. You may close this window at any time. Now you can just close it and see this in Cloud Hub also directly. So just log in into Cloud Hub in the browser, go to Runtime Manager. So to see any deployed applications or to do any deployment, you need to use this Runtime Manager feature. So go to here and wait here. It will also, that application name also it is showing here, like deploying or starting something. You can see deploying is this is our application name which we have given. You can ignore the old ones. These are all the existing applications. You can just concentrate on this one, hello world demo class. This is the application name which we have given while deploying it into Cloud Hub. So the status is showing deploying. Once this is deployed, it will show status like started with the green color. So now it is still deploying. It is showing here. Let's wait couple of minutes. It will change the status to started. Then you can understand it is deployed. So it is showing deploying. You can close this window in the studio. You can just watch it here directly. Now you can stop this to understand the difference. Okay, you can stop this application or you can just leave it as it is to see the differences, because once you deploy this application locally in the Anypoint Studio, your URL is this one, endpoint URL. But once you deploy this application into Cloud Hub, your URL will differ. Your URL will change. Okay, let's see that as well, so that you have better idea about what is Cloud Hub deployment, how we can test any application once we deploy it into Cloud Hub like that. You need to understand this basic stuff before you start the implementation directly. If we directly jump it into that implementation, it will be little clumsy for you. You cannot understand more detail. That is why I just expanded this video like this. Okay. So now you will change this URL in Cloud Hub. Your path will be same, protocol will be same, but the host port will change once you deploy this into Cloud Hub. Let's see. See, this is started, right? So hello world team, sorry, demo class is started, because it means whenever you see the status is started, you can understand this application is deployed successfully in the Cloud Hub, not the 2.2 in the Cloud Hub. So let's click on this. Let's go to settings. Now you will see app URL here. Once you click on settings, okay, you will see the app URL. This is your host. Okay, once you deploy your application, you need to copy this host and you need to frame the URL like this. Because in Cloud Hub you will not add any port like this 98876. You will not add anything. By default internally it will map. You no need to do anything, but make sure you don't have any spaces after the host or before the host. Just remove any extra spaces are there. Now the endpoint URL is changed, right? So it is local testing URL and this is Cloud Hub URL. This is what I meant here, local deployment and Cloud Hub deployment. So now, because see, if you hit this URL, anyone in their own laptop they will not test, but if you hit this URL you can test it from your laptop also, because I have deployed this application in Cloud Hub. Cloud Hub is available for everyone. It is a cloud version, so anyone can test this application, anyone can access this application, right? So now you will have some doubt how we can make our application more secure, because any unauthorized person or any unknown person also can access this URL, right? And that is our next session. So that is why we have a topic called security, how we can make our application more secure. That we will see later. As of now, just remember, local URL will be available only for your laptop. You can only test it by using your own laptop, and Cloud Hub URL you can test it from anywhere or everywhere, or anyone can test it. So now let's copy this URL, Cloud Hub URL. Go to the browser again, hit enter. Haha, bad gateway. Okay, I told you now, before you deploy this application into Cloud Hub, you need to change this port to default port 8081, but we have not changed it. So let's do it. 8081, save it. Let's redeploy our application. To do that, you need to follow the same step. Right click on this application, go to any point platform, deploy to Cloud Hub. This time this is not the new application. We already deployed this application, but we changed some code, right? So this type is called redeploying. Now this is called redeploying, not the deploying, right? So where is this window? Yeah. So you no need to change this name and all. See here, one checkbox is there, override existing application. By default it is checked once you uh, select deploy to Cloud Hub, because we are going to use the existing application, but we did some code changes. We changed the port now, right? So that is why we need to redeploy our application. So just do that thing and click on deploy application. We will find one button here. Maybe that deploy button is not visible for you, and now it is visible. So earlier it is in blue color. Once I click on this deploy application, it is turning like this color. Okay, deployments with less than 0.1 record CPU something. Okay, so now it is again started deploying. You can just close this window, go to platform, runtime manager. You see again it is rotating, and see second time it is showing updating. First time when you deploy this application it is showing deploying, right? Second time it is showing updating, second time onwards, because it is not going to create new application, it is redeploying the existing application with latest code. So it is showing update. Let's wait till this to be deployed and it turn to started. Let's wait couple of minutes. Oh, it is taking much time. Yeah, in the meanwhile, I can show you one thing. You can check the logs, how to check the logs in Cloud Hub. So the log messages which we have added here, you can check this log messages here, na? In the what? Anypan Studio console, you can see that, right? But in the Cloud Hub, where we can see that, you can just click on this application, and here logs option is there. You can click here, and here once your application is deployed and once you test your application, that two log messages we have added na, before calling data view and after calling data view. Okay, so those messages you can see here in this logs section of Cloud Hub. In any point studio local deployment you can see here in this console, but in Cloud Hub you can see it here. Let's wait this to be turned green and started, then maybe we can test it and we can see. It is taking much time. Maybe I can pause the video. I can resume it once it is deployed. Okay, right. Okay, now it is started. Let's test that same endpoint. What has gone? Let me just copy. Yeah, now you got the response from Cloud Hub URL. Okay, so please do remember you need to roll back that port to 8081. 8081 is a default port. So before you deploy this application into Cloud Hub, you need to make sure you change that port to 8081. But in local, you can use any port. Okay, so okay, so this is how you can deploy any application locally, or any code locally, any deployment in Cloud Hub, and you can test it. Okay, I hope you understand this, how to do this Hello World in local and the Cloud Hub. Okay, now yeah. Okay, now let's see how we can, or else we can stop this video here. In next video, we will see how we can do the actual implementation for the RAML on the, I mean, for your REST API. Okay, or else let's do one thing. Let's create a new application. Go to File. Okay, go to File. Click on New MuleSoft project. Okay, this time you are actually going to do the implementation for the actual application. So let's copy the same name, paste it here, and this time you need to remember one thing. You need to import that RAML from Design Center. So download RAML from design center is there now. So just expand this, because you are now not going to create any normal HTTP application or normal I mean a non-RAML application, non-normal HTTP service. Now you are going to create a REST API. So you need to implement that REST API, right? So to do that, you need to select the RAML from your design center or from your exchange. So just earlier we didn't select anything. Now give the name and download RAML from design center. Click here. If you have not added your Cloud Hub credentials, it will ask you now. If you already added, no, it will not ask, because I have already added it now, so it is not asking. So you need to select the project name which you have given there, the RAML project name. We have given the RAML name like this, right? So click on OK. It will take some time to download that RAML. Okay, yeah, now it is showing the RAML URL here, right? So you are importing this API. You can just click on finish. And remember, earlier we have created one normal project, right? There you don't see any code, but once you import this RAML, once you click on finish, it will show you some code. Some default generated flows are there, some API kit router flows are there. Those are creating by default. Okay, you can see the differences once it is getting created. So it will take some time. Once you click on finish, it will take some time. Don't disturb anything. It will show you like not studio is not responding. Let's leave it as it is. Once you click on finish, it will take a couple of minutes to generate the default flows, and then this window will be automatically disappear. See here, it is showing not responding. I mean, accidentally I have clicked it. Let me just close this. Oh, Anypan Studio itself is closed. So that is why don't click anything. Let me just reopen the studio. Let's do the same steps again. Okay, so that is not there now. Okay, let me create the same thing again. Click on new Mule project. Give that project name, and the runtime will be there. To specified project folder name already there. It is showing. Something is. I mean, the folder name is already created somewhere in the workspace. Let's do one thing. Let me go to that workspace in the background. Don't worry about this. I will show you. I'll tell you how we can do this. Okay. I just removed it manually from the background. Let me just try. I'll show you what happened. Okay. Don't worry. Now give the same name again. Now there is no error. Na? Okay. Now just click on this download RAML design center. Expand it. Browse this button. It will show you the RAMLs available in your account. Select the required one. Click on OK. And let's wait this finish button to be enabled, then click on finish. So once you click on finish, you will get this kind of flows gets created by default. Okay, so one is this main flow. You can find the flow name here. See, in our example also, we just drag and drop the HTTP listener. By default, this flow box, this flow scope will come, and one name is also came by default with the project name and one, right? So likewise, once you click on finish on that button, once you imported that RAML, Okay, it will generate the flow with the project name and main. This is the main flow. Here you will see one HTTP listener. This is our source, where once we hit this REST API, once we call this REST API, this listener will call first and then it will route the flows by using this API Kit router. So API Kit router is the one which actually route the flows based on the method, based on the endpoint you are invoking. Okay, if you remember, we have implemented 4 resources as of now in our RAML, right? So get libraries. So for this, one flow is getting generated. Get books. For this, one flow is getting generated. So 2 get methods. We have created 3 get methods and 1 post method, to be frank. So for each and every method, for each and every resource combination, it will create one flow here by default. Okay, see, get libraries means list of all libraries method. For that, one flow is created. And get books, it will list all the books in the particular library based on the library code. So for this, one flow is created. And get libraries library ID, based on the library ID you are a parameter, it will fetch all the library details, location details and all. This is our another resource which we have designed in our RAML. And the last one is post books, means creating a new book into the library. So if you remember, we have we have created these many 4 resources we have designed in our RAML. So for each and every resource, it will generate one flow, and apart from that, one main flow is created. We can just minimize this by using this arrow. You can see how many flows are getting created. Okay, you can just minimize all, then it will be easy for you to see how many are there. One main flow is there, one console flow is there. You can ignore this console flow. Actually, we can delete this as well. There is no use of this console flow. You can just delete it. So one main flow is there with the API Kit router, and for each and every method and resource combination, maybe you can remember like how many methods are there in our RAML. For each and every method, one flow gets generated. So in our RAML, we have 3 get methods and 1 post method. Okay, let's just go back to the design center. Let's just verify. Maybe this session is expired. Okay, this is our SAP, library management SAP. Based on this design, we have created this implementation, right? So while creating new project, we just selected that RAML. It means that based on this RAML, we are going to create the implementation. Maybe you can check it in Exchange also, but just let me show you in the design center. See in the documentation, if you can see, go to the summary part. How many methods are there? 1 methods you can count with get and post. Okay, 1 2 3 4 methods are there, but 3 resources are there, 4 methods are there, so don't get confused. For this books resource, we have 2 methods, post and get. Okay, so in API Kit generated flows, how you can remember in easy way is like how many methods are there. 1 2 3 4 4 methods are there, so 4 flows can get created, and one main flow is created. One console flow is also created. We just deleted it because we don't know the console flow is not that much useful for us. Okay, we can delete that main flow, and for each and every method, one flow is getting generated. Just remember this. And inside this flow, we have some code, some data views, and some loggers are there. And these examples, these things, it will grab it from the RAML only. In the RAML, we have generated some examples, some example files, right? So based on that, it will pick randomly. This is not the actual data. So going forward, what we can do, we can just delete these RAMLs. Okay, we can delete this default code generated in this flow. We are going to delete it, and we can do the actual implementation. Based on the particular resource, we have a requirement for each and every resource, right? So we can do the actual implementation. We can do that logic here instead of this default log and the default data view. We will delete this. Okay, for now, let's do one thing. Let me just drag and drop the data view in every section. Let's create one line of code to understand which method we are going to call, just to understand. Okay, maybe can we, yeah, we can keep this log. By default, it is like this now. So get list libraries log, or we can say, let's do small changes. Let's deploy it. This is not the actual implementation, by the way. you need to understand how to commit the code and how to add this code into your repository first step with the default code itself. Then we can do one by one implementation, then we can commit the code on daily basis. So that this is also your day-to-day work as a MuleSoft developer. You need to work on any project. Once you're done with your code, you need to commit the code at the end of the day every day. So that practice also we will do from this video itself. Okay, so that is why I'll show you how to commit this code initially, and then we will see. So for now I'm just keeping one JSON data view. That is why I have result maybe. That is why I have explained this example in previous hello world example. You can just change this JSON, and maybe just for now list libraries flow, we can say in this way. This will be your response, okay, for this particular flow if you invoke it. Instead of this we can just, this is get books na list books flow, we can say, just for our understanding. So let's add one logger in each flow and one data view with some sample data. Get books flow. Just like that for other two resources also we can add one data view, one logger. Okay, this is get libraries by library ID. Alright, so libraries based on, okay. So in your actually this hashes in the logger is not a good practice. You should not add this. Once you enable the function, we will see that later. Just to differentiate the other lines with this logger lines, I have added it. You just remember, going forward we are not going to add these hashes in log messages. Okay, okay, here it is taking this library ID from the URI parameter. So you can read by using this data view syntax. You can read this. Maybe we can add one more data view here, and we can say get library details based on ID. What I am trying to do is, like, for each and every flow for all the 4 resources, I'm just adding one data view, one logger. Let's deploy this into Cloud Hub. Let's test this once if it is working fine or not. Then we can do the actual implementation. Then it is easy for you to test and all. Okay. Also, we will first commit this code into Git repository. Like we are going to use this Azure DevOps repositories, right? But locally to commit, we are going to use Git Bash only. We will do that setup and we will see how we can do in on daily basis. Once let's complete that first. Then we will go through one by one. We will do small implementations. We will do all the branches and all. Then we can commit the code every day. Then we can complete the project. Right, so let me add one logger, sorry, one data view. Here this logger is to create new books. I'll show you what are the best practices we are going to follow in our implementation as well. But remember, this is not the best practice and this is not the suggestible way to add hashes. Okay, I'll show you why I have added. I'll tell you. Okay, so this is to create new book. Okay, let's save this as of now. All the remaining things, leave it as it is. Let's save this and let's see what is the listener by default. See, this listener we have not added now. It is added by default by using API router. Let's click on edit. Let's see what is the configuration. See, it is HTTP and 8081 only, right? And the default path also it will get added here, /API/star. So now this is your path. After this, in the place of star, you need to give your actual resource path. Actual resource path means this /libraries or /books /libraries/library ID, like that. Okay, let's frame this endpoint once we deploy it. You can test it locally as well as in Cloud Hub. So as we have already seen Cloud Hub deployment, let's deploy this for now in Cloud Hub. Let's see how we can test this. Okay, then once we commit the code and once we do all these things, then we can see, we can test it locally once and then deploy it to Cloud Hub. We can follow that process. Okay, so to deploy this in Cloud Hub, as we know, you need to go to any point, right click on your project and go to any point platform and click on deploy to Cloud Hub. This time this might be the unique name, and this is the first time I am doing this project deployment. You need to select Cloud Hub 1.2 and your project name should be unique. See, by default shared space, now just click here and select the Cloud Hub. As this project is not there in Cloud Hub so far, so this is the unique name. We can give the unique name, but while you are deploying this into Cloud Hub, as I deployed this already in my Cloud Hub, the Cloud Hub is unique for all. So you will see this application name is not unique for you. You will see some errors. So just append your name something for now, like just hyphen and add some name. Okay, then you can able to deploy it. Don't change this project name to avoid some confusion. Just append your name at the end, Lakshmi something. If my name is Lakshmi, I can add just like this. You can add 3 letters. Okay, but you just remember this is your SAP system API. Okay, if you select the same name in Cloud Hub 1.2, it won't allow because I already deployed with this name. Right, so we need to change that name and select the Cloud Hub and you click on the deploy application. So once this is deployed, you can able to test this all the 4 endpoints. But if you remember in our installation video, we have installed one software called Postman. Right? Actually, earlier in our Hello World example, we have tested it by using browser. But going forward, we are going to use this Postman. Postman is the tool where we can test our REST APIs easily for all the methods, right? So we can use that. So meanwhile, I can just open up the Postman. So you can just follow this video step by step. Okay. Postman is trying to open. Okay, let me just. Yeah, this is the tool Postman. It looks like this. Okay, you can add as many as collections or as many as URLs. I'll tell you how you can use this tool. Okay, so if you are using it the first time, you will not see these many tabs here. You can just click on plus. See here you can select what method you are going to test and you can give the URLs here. If you want to give any query parameters in your if your REST API is having any query parameters, you can give here like key value pairs. And if your API has any headers, see in our case we have common headers also. Client ID, client secret and correlation ID. Those 3 are the headers, common headers we have added. So those headers we need to pass here while testing this API. And to give the query parameters, you need to give the query parameters here. So as of now, we don't add anything we don't have added any policies or something. It will just ask for a header. We can give any random value. But going forward, we will add the policy and we will give the actual values to the headers as well. So please pay attention for every video. Otherwise, you will miss something. You will lose some flow. Okay. Maybe you can find some gap, right? So just to follow the video and write down the steps, practice it daily basis. We will be publishing daily one video, right? So try to practice that video in that same day or over the weekend. So that will be helpful for you to clarify your doubts as it is as soon as possible, and to practice everything in parallel. So that will save some time and that will enhance your practice and your hands-on experience also, because if you see this video today, if you practice it after 1 month, maybe you will be not feel that much good, right? Okay, so Let's wait this to be deployed. Maybe you can close this window as we did earlier. You can just go to runtime manager and wait there, and you can just check there the status of your application. So remember, going forward we are going to use this Postman tool to test our applications, REST APIs. What? This has not yet started. Okay, it is deployed already, right? Okay, great. I thought I can see some deploying, but yeah, it is deployed, right? So IBS library management SAPI, it is already deployed. Okay, so now we can able to test this. But what you need to do, go to settings. You need to click on that application and go to settings. You need to copy this URL first to frame the endpoint, right? So now let's make it as HTTP and host. And if you remember, we have some common path here for all the APIs. By default, it is getting generated with common path API /API. You need to add this /API, then your endpoint URL. What is your endpoint URL? From where you can get it? You can actually get it from Exchange or RAML or even in this code itself. Okay, so let's minimize this main. So to get libraries, to get this response, you can use the resource path like libraries /libraries, but it's better to get it from the RAML. Sorry, I'll do it in another window. I don't want to miss this logs. I'll show you how you can check the logs as well. So here it is now. You can maybe from Exchange also you can copy it because yeah, so you can just click on this. You will see this is the libraries now. You can just copy this path, just the resource path. Don't copy host and all, because the host which we have given is an example host, but now the host name is the correct one is this Cloud Hub URL. The correct host is, because now we deployed this now. So this is this URL, this app URL. I mean, in the settings you can find it as an app URL. This is your host now. Okay, so don't take host from there, just take the path. Make sure you will have only one /. So this is the get method, right, to get the libraries. Let's test this once. So I'm just copying that URL here. It should pull all the list of libraries, right? So let's click send without headers. So you have not sent any headers now. It will throw you bad request because you have some issues in your host, or if you have missed any headers, if you missed any query parameters, it will throw you bad request. So let's go back to our RAML. What are the headers we have defined over there? We can just copy it from there. So headers are mandatory parameters we have defined, right? So this client ID, client secret, X correlation ID. Alright, so we can maybe copy it from here. Yeah, you need to pass all the required headers, query parameters and all to make this work. Client ID, but as of now we don't have any policies, as I said earlier, so we have not applied any policies. You can just give any random values. Later on you need to provide the actual values. Okay, so this is how you can add headers under this headers tab. We have these three headers now. You can add the keys as it is, as you defined in the RAML, and values you can give any value as of now. Okay, let's try to hit this now. Yeah, now you will get 200. Okay, because now you have passed all the required information for this get method, all the client ID secrets. So the result is list libraries flow. From where this result is coming, we have defined in this data view, right? In this data view we have defined it is a JSON response and list libraries flow. So what about this logger, list of all libraries? It will print here? No, because we didn't deploy this locally, we deployed it in Cloud Hub. So you can find this log statement here in the logs. Okay, see list of all libraries, you can see. One error is there. See, if any errors is there, it will show you here. Here you can check what is the error. So when first time when we hit this URL without this headers, we got an error like 400 bad request, right? So for that it is providing the information in this log section. See, this is the error. You can find any errors in the logs also. So this shows error, and what is the error? See, required header X correlation ID not specified. It is not complaining about other two headers, client ID, client secret, right? It is complaining about only X correlation ID because it will check one by one. So once you add X correlation ID, if you didn't add other two headers, it will throw error for those two headers as well. If you defined it is required true. Okay, let's just uncheck this. If you uncheck these values also, that is fine to replicate the issue. See, 400 bad request. So we didn't pass these two values. Whenever these are checked, it will take the value. If it is unchecked, it won't take the values. Now let's go back to the Cloud Hub. Alright, this is not updated. The logs are, just let me click on logs. See, again one error is there. If you can see, yeah, this is the exception we got, error. It shows required header client secret is not specified. So one by one it will check. Let's enable this client secret. Let's send the request. Again you should get bad request because we are not passing client ID. So now let's go to logs. It will complain about client ID is not passed. It will take some time to replicate. See, now it is another error. Client ID is not specified. Until unless you pass all the required information, it will throw all the errors. So now we selected all these three. Now you should get success response. 200 is status code, success status code, OK is the status message. Now you'll get all the success response, and you don't see any errors here. You will not find any errors here. It should show the log message. It will take some, yeah, log message also displayed here. So this is how you can deploy this application. You can test this, right? And I'll show you one more thing. You can just save this as a collection, these endpoints. Okay, you can just click on save and create a new collection, new folder. Here you can say it is IBS project URLs as of now. Okay, let's create, because why you are going to create is now all the endpoints, all the URLs, you can save it here in one place. So that is why. See, IBS project URLs now, this get URL is there, get list libraries, we have just tested it. We have another 3 endpoints also, we have 3 other resources also. You can just test them as well. You can save all the endpoints here in this collection. It is easy to maintain this postman to get all the required URLs. You can directly come here, instead of typing every time. You can just come here and you can test this particular URL from here. So that is why. So it doesn't have any query parameters. We don't need to pass anything. It requires only headers. We are sending required headers, right? So let's see all these other three testing later, maybe, because everything is same as of now, as we don't have any exact implementation, right? Everything is fine. You can test all the 3 URLs also like this. Just try from your end. You can test all the remaining 3 URLs by using like this. Just try to add the collection, all the 4 URLs here, and try to do this deployment in Cloud Hub. Then in our next video, we will see how we can commit this code into coding repository, and then we need to create one database connectivity. So database credentials also we need to create database account, because we are going to pull library details, book details from the database, right? So we need to create one database and table, but in real time you are not going to, as a MuleSoft developer, you are not going to create a tables and databases. Database team will be there, they will give you the required details. But as we are doing it from scratch, we can create some database and tables from our end, just for our testing purpose, for our project purpose. In your real time, you will get these details from the database team. You don't need to worry about all the database scripts and all. Okay, I'll show you from next video. So till now, practice this RAML and practice these examples, and try to implement this project with some dummy data and deploy it, test it thoroughly, so that you will get some good idea how to do it. Okay. Thank you. Next, let's meet in another video. Thank you.